Hey everybody, from Beantown to your town. This is the Beantown Beatdown. I'm Matthew Barnes, along with my co-host and producer Gabe
Thomas, also from Beantown.
Yep, coming to you live here from Belmont. And in the words of the great Julius Caesar, beware the Ides of March Madness. Hey, college basketball, that's coming. The tournament's around the corner.
That is what it is. Yep, indeed.
Yeah. We're going to get into some headlines. Well, first and foremost, was a quick night for Ronda Rousey, 14 seconds.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah, I saw that pay-per-view fight. It was a great woman's bout. 14 seconds submitted Kat Zingano with an armbar. And it wasn't like the regular armbar move. It was like a kind of where like she flipped her, and she was like opposite, and like her arm was there, and she was like bending it backwards and stuff like that, and it was just amazing. And Ronda Rousey in the UFC continues to be a star, continues to amaze fans, and continues to kick ass. And that's been everywhere lately. It's been on ESPN First Take. It's been on like regular TV show, talk shows. It's been on TMZ, and it's also been on the internet. And there's been some good comments about it and negative comments, and I'll get more to that in my rant of the day. And also on the undercard, Holly Holm beat Raquel Pennington in her UFC debut. She had good takedown defense and actually gave Raquel a good kickboxing lesson.
Sweet.
Yep. And also from that night, Josh Koscheck from The Ultimate Fighter, the first season, he lost to Jake Ellenberger. And when he got into a Darce choke, right? And as Koscheck is getting choked out, he was foaming at the mouth.
Really?
Yeah, he was foaming at the mouth like he had rabies. That is the first time in any MMA fight I ever seen a fighter getting choked out and was foaming.
Wow.
Yeah. Ever. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. What else can you say to that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And also in some other news, speaking of ESPN's First Take, I saw ESPN's First Take on Thursday. Miguel Cotto, the WBC middleweight champion, made two big major announcements. First and foremost, he is signed with Rock Nation Sports, so he's with Jay-Z. Him and Andre Ward are the two big boxing stars, and they're both in the middleweight division. They signed to Rock Nation. And also, Miguel Cotto says that he will fight on June 8th. No opponent has been named yet. Of course, names being flown around are Amir Khan and Timothy Bradley. And those are really some good matchups for him.
Right.
Originally, he was going to fight Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo, but then those plans fell through, and Canelo is fighting somebody else. And also now on that day, it's going to be Mayweather-Pacquiao.
About to say, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the big fight. And Cotto was asked, which one he would like to fight, the winner of Mayweather and Pacquiao, because he's fought both those guys, and both times he got his ass whooped by those guys.
Right.
And he says, he's just going to focus on the June fight, and then later see who else he's going to fight.
Totally.
Yeah. Although, personally, in my opinion, I think Peter Quillen, Kid Chocolate, should get the next title shot, because he's a former WBO middleweight champion. He's undefeated. He's actually going for the belt again, because he vacated it and tried to get some big fights and didn't happen. So, but I think Quillen and Cotto would be a great matchup. If that fight ever comes to fruition.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see on that fight. But as far as signing the Rock Nation, once again, Jay-Z is raking in the dough.
Oh, man, yeah.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes, he is smiling.
Yeah, I was wondering about that move. It's definitely a move coming from like the entertainment, industry and whatnot. But
Well, yeah, 50 Cent is also as a
you said
promoter
that
for
before.
boxer too. He's a boxing promoter as well, and and actually Eric B, who was a DJ for Rakim back in the old school days. Eric B and Rakim, he's a boxing promoter himself.
Right.
And so is David
Right.
Dash too.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. And also, speaking of boxing, tonight is the premiere of Premier Boxing Champions on NBC, and it's going to be a huge night. First, you got Abner Mares, who former featherweight champion and also bantamweight champion as well. He's fighting on that card. I forget the name of the guy he's fighting, but he's always exciting to watch fight. I mean, I've seen him fight plenty of times on Showtime, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
And then also on the undercard, we got Adrian the Problem Broner, Mini Mayweather, taking on John Molina Jr. And I love Adrian Broner. I think Broner's going to give Molina a boxing lesson, and hopefully this will get him a shot at the super lightweight title. And then, of course, in the main event, it's Keith Thurman taking on Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Yeah, and Guerrero and Thurman are both top welterweight fighters. They both want a shot at Mayweather.
Right.
Guerrero actually fought Mayweather. He was Mayweather's first fight after Mayweather got released from prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Guerrero lost. But of course, I think after the Pacquiao fight, when Mayweather wins, I don't think he's going to be interested in any kind of rematch. Not with Guerrero or Cotto, personally, in my opinion. But
are you trying to call this fight already?
Well, yeah. You gotta have faith in your boy. Manny Pacquiao's a good fighter too, but I'm gonna go with Mayweather on this one. But as far as Keith Thurman goes, Keith Thurman is a young prospect. He's undefeated, and he actually called out Mayweather during his last fight. He called out Mayweather, and he would be a good, interesting matchup should he get past Guerrero.
Right.
Yeah, he's undefeated. Floyd's undefeated, and let's see if Floyd can take out one young buck. He already did it with Canelo Alvarez, so let's see what he does against Thurman.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And this Premier Boxing Champions thing, it really has been setting the world on fire. All because of Al Heyman. And Al Heyman and Dana White, they really are trying to make this their year. The UFC, they got some big fights coming up this year, and especially overseas. They got one fight going down in Manila in the Philippines, and with Al Heyman, he's got the Premier Boxing Champions on NBC, Spike TV. Spike TV debuted is next week. Josito Lopez versus Andre Berto, and that's Josito Lopez. Yeah, Josito Lopez and Andre Berto, and Sean Porter versus Roberto Garcia. And he's also got a card on CBS, and on top of that, he's got the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight.
Right.
So this
this is going to be something, huh?
Oh yeah, him and Dana White, they are really in a race to see who's going to be the fight promoter of the year. Yeah, of course, it's not going to be but of course, what it comes down to is not the quantity; it's about the quality of fights.
Right.
Yeah, but of course, I think it's going to be good quality fights because Adrian Broner, if you've never seen him fight before, you're in for a treat. You're definitely going to be in for a treat, and of course, that goes down tonight at 8:30 on NBC, and it takes place live at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. MGM Grand, which is of course nicknamed Mayweather Gets Money because he's had a lot of fights there, and he draws a crowd.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and when he goes to fight Pacquiao, that crowd is going to be major, huge. Yeah, there's not going to be an empty seat in that arena that night.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be something else.
Exactly. And also, last but not least, last night I saw Golden Boy Promotions fight. They have their LA Fight Club series in Los Angeles. They did one at a theater in LA. forget the name of it. It was L something.
Hmm.
And in the main event, Joe Diaz, he beat this guy in Hernandez. I forget his first name, but he beat him with body punches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first round he hit him with a body shot, knocked him down, and then in the next round he knocked him down 3 more times with body shots. And the last shot he gave him, it was right before the bell rang, and then after the bell rang, the referee waved it off. Right before it went to commercial, he just went, no more, none, done. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, and when we came back from commercial, the guy was on the ground. He was like, oh, you know.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, because and the thing about combat sports, and I was also talking with this with my mom too, is that body punches do more damage than headshots. Because, with body punches, when if you're fighting a guy who's moving and stuff like that, the best thing to do to wear him down is aim for the body. You aim for the ribs, you aim for the gut and stuff like that, because, you get to slow him down. He's not moving as much. You're breaking ribs, and also you're causing kidney damage. Yeah, because when you, especially, when you do like that, his kidneys start bleeding.
Right.
You get blood in your urine.
So you don't think that has as much, like, there's not as much as like brain damage and stuff when you go for the head and like.
Yeah, that's true. I mean.
And like your neck and shit. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so that's how you get the fighters with that speed. Like that's how you. In fact, when Muhammad Ali fought George Chuvalo throughout the night was hitting him with body punches, and Ali actually had to go to the hospital that night. He went to the hospital, bleeding kidneys, and he actually said in the documentary Facing Ali, he said, Ali went to the hospital with bleeding kidneys, and I went out dancing with my wife. Yeah.
Right.
And also that night, the undercard, I was watching this brawl. There was a fight before that main event, and this one boxer, his eye was like swollen to the size of an egg. It was really swelling up. And in the 6th round, which was the last round, it was there was like 44 seconds left, and the referee said, "Time. Let's get a doctor in here." And the doctor was looking at the eye, and as I'm looking at this, as I'm saying, "No, please don't," I'm like, "Oh, don't stop it this way." And all of a sudden, they just waved it off. They waved it off, and my mom was watching it with me too. My mom goes, "Oh, that was good," but I was like, "Well, Mom, there's 44 seconds left in the last round. There's 44 seconds left. Could you have let it go?" And she's like, "Matthew, look at his eye." And I looked at the eye, and I was like, "Okay," but there was still 44 seconds. And she's like, "Yeah, but in 44 seconds, something could have popped in there. You could have popped a blood vessel and whatever." Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the fighter's safety. I mean, as our parents always told us when we were little, safety comes first.
Right.
But when it's in the last round and the fight is, there's like 44 seconds left. If there's that much time left in the fight, I think you should let it go. Because and also the crowd was mostly Mexican American too. So it's like, the Mexican fights, they like fighters to go to the end. They don't like seeing stoppages and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was a good night of boxing. Also, Mario Lopez was actually on commentary.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because he's working with Golden Boys. He's doing a little documentary for Golden Boy Promotions on the Fox, the Spanish network. And he's actually executive producer, along with Mike Tyson, for this documentary called Champs.
Okay. That guy's all over the place, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, Mario Lopez. Yeah, he's really come a long way from Saved by the Bell.
Right. Yeah. At work, we have like the TV on in the break room and stuff, and like someone always switches it to the the red carpet or the extra entertainment tonight or whatever. And he always does that too.
Yeah, that guy doesn't look a day over 18. He doesn't age.
Right. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And now this is a part where we get into my rant of the day. And my rant on the day is on the Ronda Rousey fight. And and I remember because I have this tradition where after UFC fights on pay-per-views, I go on my laptop and I go to UFC.com and I watch the press conferences. Because they have press conferences and stuff, because that's where you get the news, some upcoming fights, or rumors of who's coming in, who's leaving, and blah, blah, blah.
Right, yeah.
And I was looking down one of the comment boards. One of the guys was saying, "Oh, this is bullshit. I paid a lot of money for that main event, and all I got was 14 seconds."
Right.
And they were talking a little bit about this on ESPN First Take this week. He's got, one guy was saying, I like Ronda Rousey, but, this is bad. It's 14 seconds. It's like...
Too short.
Yeah, they said it was too short and stuff. And people were saying, this is just like, Mike Tyson back in the day. And, just like Mike Tyson back in the day, you ordered a fight, and all of a sudden the fight was over, and you're like, that's bullshit, I just ordered it, what the fuck? And let me school you asswipes out there on this, okay? Here's the difference. When Mike Tyson fought in the 80s and 90s, whether it's on pay-per-view or regular HBO, you only got that one fight, okay? There was no undercards. And, later on in the 90s when he came back after prison, there were some undercard fights, but the arena wasn't filled to see those fights.
Right.
Before the main event fights, you could literally hear a rat piss on cotton. But nowadays, and what the UFC has done, and this is what boxing has borrowed from them, especially Golden Boy Promotions, is that you don't get just one fight, you get 4 more fights on that card.
Right.
Okay, so it's like, even if the main event wasn't what you wanted it to be, you have these other fights on the card that were, that will fulfill you. And the fights on the undercard were actually pretty good. There were some pretty good fights on the undercard that night when I watched it.
Right.
So so for all you crybabies out there, it's like, please, cut the crap. Okay, you got other fights on that card that were good. Okay, some of them went a little longer. The Holly Holm fight went to distance, and the fans were kind of booing which they had no reason to boo, because Holly Holm was busy. She was, landing kicks and punches and stuff like that. They just expected a finish, and and that's the thing about fight fans. Fight fans are spoiled fucking rotten sometimes. They're just spoiled fucking rotten. It's like like those little teenagers we used to watch on MTV's My Sweet 16. It's like, for my birthday, I want a car, I want a Maserati, I want this. It's like, bitch, you're getting a party, okay? Right. Quit your fucking crying. Right. So, and that's how I feel with these fight fans sometimes. They don't, some of them do. The smart ones like myself and Gabe and other people, they appreciate, the greatness of Ronda Rousey. Okay? People are saying oh, she makes it so easy, and it's like, well, that's because she trains. This is why they have those UFC countdown shows, are basically countdown shows, period, when you watch these big fights, because you see the work. Right. Okay? People forget the hard work that goes into it. Half of it is God-given, because some of them are God-given and they just have that talent. But for the most part, it's the work that goes into it. It's the work. Okay? And that's, you have no appreciation for what she does, okay? She trains hard. Yes, I would like to see her strike. I would like to see her get into a brawl and stuff. Let's really test out her chin. But if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen, because be a fan. The true fans, they watch it, they dig it, and they have no complaints about it. Yes, it can be better. It can always be better. Right. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You get what you paid for. So have a little fucking respect, people. Please have a little respect. Well, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I try and think about what I would say if I had ordered, and whatnot, and if I'm the type of person that really would like hold on to see a big fight and that type of thing, and I could understand that impulse to be like, oh man, like I just sat down and it's over, So I mean, I guess I can understand where they're coming from, but I'm not one of those types of people that is that invested, and yeah, I do believe in the training, like you said, and I believe in like honestly on the streets, like or in the playground, on the fights, it can everyone like gathers around and screams fight, 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 but like it could be over in a few seconds, or it could go on far longer than you would even like want to keep watching it. It's like the streets and the playground that doesn't follow the same rules. So I understand that this is a sport and you want to watch it, but but if we're really respecting the art, which is the fighting, then it doesn't follow those rules. It doesn't have to be a certain length. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're just, fans are just, and fight fans in general, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, or MMA, sometimes they can just be spoiled rotten little bitches, Especially now with, like for example, they had a Super Sweet 16 with Lil Wayne's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she got like 2 cars. I can imagine some girl right now who watched this. There's some little girl out there going, did you see what Lil Wayne's daughter got for her birthday? She got a Bugatti and she got I think she was like a Viper or something. She got like 2 cars for her Sweet 16. You're taking me to, you got me a pickup truck for my Super Sweet 16. You think Lil Wayne's daughter drives a pickup truck to school?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you open up a book and learn something, lady? Okay? Why don't you learn something about World War II? Okay? Learn one motherfucking thing about a war. But no, you want to drive in a Bugatti with Lil Wayne's daughter. And
right.
And for all you, and the other thing for you fight fans who are complaining like, oh, I paid this much money and stuff, it's like, you got what you paid for, okay? And also, if you're that angry, don't watch her fight. Spend the next $50, go watch porn. Go beat off. Yeah. I'm going to piss off a lot of women today. But I don't care. Alright, so now we're going to get into the blast from the past. And this blast from the past involves a kickboxing bout. It was between Bob Sapp and Chemo. It was at K1 Battle at the Bellagio in 2003. And I've seen this fight dozens and dozens of times on YouTube, and it is one of the best, if not the best, K1 kickboxing matches I've ever seen. And for this fight there was no technique at all. There was just swinging and swinging and swinging.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Bob Sapp as a kickboxer, he wasn't really technical. He wasn't like a Mirko Krokop or a Peter Ertz or Ernesto Hoost, who Bob Sapp, by the way, knocked the fuck out twice. But he would just hold on to you and would just come out swinging. And he wasn't much of a kicker. He didn't throw any flashy kicks or anything. It was just more of a boxer. Right. And for Chemo, Chemo, of course, is one of the old UFC legends there. From the early days of the UFC. And by that time, Chemo, he was just one of those fighters that, if a promotion called for him to fight, whether it was a MMA promotion in Japan or in America or kickboxing, he'd just be like, okay, I'm up to do it. Right. Yeah, and he had a good reputation for being a badass and stuff like that. And in the first round, Bob Sapp knocked him down. Of course, that was a slip. The referee fucked up on that one. And then the second round, like, Chemo really started wailing in on Bob Sapp. Actually hit Bob with a jab. Boom! And Bob was like, ugh. And he was, Chemo just went in on him, and knocked him down. Knocked him down twice. And then before the second round began, because Bob Sapp had a cut on his eye.
Oh.
And the doctors and his cornermen and the referees were checking him out, trying to see if he can continue. And then he went, okay, I can continue. And then all of a sudden he goes in, he knocks down Chemo again. And then Chemo gets up, gets his mouthpiece put back in, and just starts wailing and wailing and wailing and kneeing him. And then Chemo's on the ground again. He's looking up at the sky, and he's out. Yeah, and that was the thing about in Japan, with K1 and Pride, is that they always put on those super fight, those crazy bout fights and stuff. Especially in K1, you had like Melvin Manhoef, who was a middleweight kickboxer, against Mark Hunt, who's a heavyweight, and Melvin Manhoef, knocks him the fuck out. Where in America, it'd be no fucking way. No fucking way that would ever happen.
Right.
And of course, that fight is also remembered because after that fight, Mike Tyson was in the crowd that night, and Tyson, they tried to make this thing about Bob Sapp and Mike Tyson fighting each other. And by that time, Tyson was kind of on the downslide. Tyson had lost to Lennox Lewis, and he was kind of on the way out and stuff. So if he had fought Bob Sapp, it would have been, Mike wouldn't. I don't think Mike would have been able to handle the kicks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And second of all, Mike Tyson was a shell of his former self. He was way past his prime now. Yeah, so that would have been as competitive as people thought it would be. But it's a good fight. It's definitely something to look up on YouTube, and it was definitely the no pun intended, the glory days of K1, because now Glory Kickboxing has become the number one kickboxing promotion in the world, and K1 is just one of those organizations that's just around.
Right.
Yeah, because of all the money trouble years later, and all the big names like Alistair Overeem, Peter Ertz, and Badr Hari, and those guys left and stuff. So, that organization is hanging on by a thread, unfortunately. But it's still a good fight to look up, and whenever you get the chance to see it on YouTube, or if you get one of those old K1 videos, on DVD and stuff, or you order it, whatever, go.
Right.
Yeah, go see those. Go look it up, man. It's a good fight. It's a good fight to look at. So.
All right. So
that's time for your rant.
Yep. Going into my rant of the day. I've been thinking about this guy. What would you say is going to enter the thing that Jay-Z is doing now?
Miguel Cotto.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's once again, there's more types of entertainment people that are going into promoting or whatever. I've been thinking a lot about why we like certain types of violence, and I think there's a lot of different types of violence in entertainment, and we like it, and different people like different types of violence. I think is kind of how it goes down. And so I'm going to be talking about different types of violence in entertainment or in activities. There's movie violence, which we've talked about before, and the difference of movie violence and real world violence, and especially with action movies. I was talking about this with one of my friends before. There's a whole group of people that wouldn't be fight fans and wouldn't like this type of thing because they consider that too violent. But then they love it in the movies because it's about a hero, and there's always that underdog hero that's doing something for the right reasons, and that and if that means charging forward and cutting someone's head off, or if that means for example, or if that that means a lot of times like fist to fist and whatnot, then then we're glad that he does it and we cheer for him and all that type of stuff, or her, Tomb Raider, Charlie's Angels, that type of stuff comes to mind.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Oh yes, we definitely cheer for Alice and her just going against all those zombies. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's like there's if you're not the type of person that's necessarily in the violence of more real world type stuff like fighting, or like sports, then then you like it in the movies because it's about this heroic type of story. And so I think that's interesting. And we've talked before about how we've talked a lot about how violent entertainment is not a problem in and of itself, and a lot of people point to it and say that's the problem. Well, that's not the problem. It's this real world violence like
exactly.
we talked about. So there's movie violence and TV, same thing. Same thing. It's about a story, and usually maybe there's more nuanced stories on TV and whatever, and it's not always black and white that it's a heroic person doing this, but at the same time, it's still about a story. So that's a sort of different type of thing. Whereas when you got your sports, you got your fights, that's a different aspect as well. And I think what's interesting about sports and about fights is that it's like trying to see who wins. It's like about also the suspense of the action is one thing, and that's great. I think a lot of people root for the action, of course, but I think it's also about like the suspense and the let's flesh it out. Let's see who actually will prevail. The thing that keeps it interesting in sports and the thing that keeps it interesting in fighting is if the teams or if the opponents are more evenly matched. Because I've been thinking about this too, and I asked one of my friends who's not really a fight fan, but I'd say that he understands all these different aspects of violence, and I asked him what the thing is. What if it really was a completely mismatched fight? What if it's like someone who's just, and I'm sure they've had this before, someone who's like a mountain of a man, against like a very tiny person.
Yeah, you're basically just talking about almost every martial art movie ever made.
Well, yeah, that's that. Right. Well, yeah, there we go. But again, in a movie, it's like you root for the underdog, and the underdog miraculously pulls through. Usually. But yeah, if it was a real fight like that, I think there'd be a little bit of dissatisfaction or whatever, because I wonder if it's like too unevenly matched, then it's like there's not as much suspense unless the really short person comes in from behind, or whatever. But yeah, I kind of think that even if we say that we want our opponent to be the best and the most prepared, I think we actually sort of secretly want both of them to be the best and the most prepared, and really see the struggle and see who comes out swinging.
Yeah.
And I think about guys that sit around all the time and ask fictional characters who would win in a fight, Superman or Batman, that type of thing. Yeah. Guys do that all the time, and I think it's fascinating. And they just try and find even more obscure references, to maybe start bringing people you actually know, or even it's more obscure fiction like Alice, let's say Alice from Resident Evil, or Tomb Raider, Angelina Jolie. I wonder who would win between them. I actually would be really invested in seeing that. So I think the fact that we do that in our minds is points to that we actually want that. We actually want the suspense and the wondering and the sort of spectacle of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. And about the because fictional violence and what happens in sports, and the thing is, like, yes, one is because we want the hero to win, and for, like, if it's real, not even just with the fighting sports, like let's say hockey, you got guys on the ice, you got these big guys, and you got the enforcers, and they're smashing into each other and getting into fist fights there. People think it's it's too much. Oh, I don't want to watch this. And well, the best way I could put it is that there's a differentiation, but it's kind of like different strokes for different folks.
Right.
Like certain things, like they can handle, and stuff they can't handle. Like I've actually had people, some people actually can't. Like when all the Law and Order shows were on, like some people couldn't actually handle the Law and Order SVU show, because it's about the rapes and sodomy, and it's like of course they would tell them, like, well, you're supposed to get off on the fact that they catch this son of a bitch and they put him in prison, but it's like, yeah, but leading up to that, all we see is sodomy and rape and stuff like that. But nowadays, it's it has kind of brought sex crimes to the forefront, about rapes and stuff like that. I mean, even some people have said that consider Christian Grey in the 50 Shades of Grey books and the movies. They actually consider him kind of a rapist. They say, like, if a guy like this in real life existed, he would be in prison.
Fascinating. See, that's actually, I was actually going to go there. I was also going to talk about violence and sex and sexual violence. I think when people hear sexual violence, you think of a sex crime, like you're talking about. But I don't think that phrase necessarily has to mean that. I don't know. I'm going to stay away from that phrase because I think that's what everyone thinks about. But I think there's consensual, a lot more than we think, consensual violence within sex. And certain people are more into that type of stuff. And, the fact that I do like, I'm not, it's part of me part of me hopes that it's not very successful as a movie because it seems very cliche or whatever, kind of weird. But
well, the movie is already ranked in, I think, like $5 million, over $5 million.
Over $5 million.
Yeah, it's like number one when it came out, and people are still talking about it.
But yeah, I like that it's as popular a movie as it is because we're sort of talking about this stuff now, which I think a lot of people have always been talking about this stuff. But yeah, and so I think that a lot more people than we want to admit are into this stuff, in their bedrooms, and there's the difference is there's nothing wrong with it if it's consensual.
Yeah.
And so I think it just like saying that violent entertainment could lead to real world violence. I don't think that that's true, and you definitely don't think that that's true. And in the same thing with consensual violent acts in the bedroom, I do not think that leads to or is anyway related to actual sexual violence perpetrated on someone in a crime. In fact, I think that when there's free expression for these things and it is consensual, that can actually help whatever release that these people are looking for. That could actually help lower sexual violence.
Yeah, and also, the thing is, you don't have cable, but I watch a lot of Dr. Drew on HLN, and he hates this book with a passion. He's read all 3 books. he hates it with a passion.
Hmm.
I mean, and Dr. Drew is a great guy. You know, I know a lot of people go, "Oh, Dr. Drew, the celebrity doctor, celebrity rehab, and try to expose people." And
Right.
no, the guy's legit. I like the guy.
Yeah.
But you know, he does kind of make a mountain out of a molehill with this thing. He thinks it's ridiculous. You know, this woman is you know, signing a contract, you know, to be whipped and handcuffed, and of course, you know, there has been a lot of you know, the last year or two or three maybe, is that there have been some crimes where like that sound right out of the book. You know, there's on HLN. There's been some crimes of, you know, women being tied to the bed, and one recently was a college student. They were interacting a scene from it. And she was like tied to the bed, and she was getting punched in the back, and when she was saying no, stop, and the guy didn't stop, and
yeah, I was gonna talk about that. I know which case you're talking about. That he was a college student and whatnot, and you know, the interesting thing to me is that as far as we could tell at the time when I heard the story, they think that she consented to being there with him, and she consented to being tied, and so I think that clearly demonstrates where the distinction lies. You know, you can. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but you know, I think there's a lot of people that enjoy being tied and whatnot, and you know, I've considered it myself with my partners. And, you know, I think that that's perfectly legitimate. But as soon as you don't respect their right to stop what's going on, then that's when it becomes a sexual crime. So I think it was not a sexual crime until you know, or that there was anything wrong with it until he didn't stop when she clearly said stop. And I think that in this one, the roommate tried to come in, and he like was trying to like help her, and he wouldn't let his roommate in. Like that's clearly against the law, against the line.
Yeah, and also there's also the Jodi Arias trial, which by the way, she was, I don't know if you heard, but she was found. They didn't censor her death. There was a mistrial, so because of the two mistrials, now she gets life in prison. And because like during the trial, you know, there was the infamous sex tape, you know, with Travis Alexander talking about tying her to a tree and putting it up her ass. And then of course there was the you know, the moaning and stuff like that. And you know, people say it was dragging his name through the mud because he's dead and stuff like that. I mean, she is a little ticky boom boom. I mean, she's a nice piece of ass, but she's a little in the head. The elevator doesn't go all the way to the top with her. But you know, and sex, you know, I mean, we also talked about this in a podcast where we ranted about like, you know, about the naked submission. The submission wrestling
thing. Naked combat
thing. And, you know, and I said, like, you know, there is definitely a market for this.
Right.
You know, but as far as being mainstream, it wouldn't gain as much attention as it would a Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, or the UFC, or, you know, Glory Kickboxing, because, you know, how you can't really market it. You know, you can't really get any sponsors other than like maybe sex toys and porn magazines. You know, so you know, so it'd be hard. You know, but
so what are you saying about that with S&M?
Well, with S&M, you know, S&M has sort of become mainstream, but. Yeah, if it's consenting, you know, if it's two consenting adults, that's fine. You know, what they do in their bedroom, hey, that's really none of our business.
Right, exactly.
But you know, like the guy who didn't stop when he was asked to stop, and the rape, or like what the violence that goes out on the streets, and what's going on in ISIS. That I'm definitely not down with at all.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So this friend that I was talking about before is actually someone that I had lived with for a little while, and I was living with people that were into S&M and part of a community about it, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot because that's something. I am into watching naked combat, like I've told you, but the S&M thing mostly no. So I sort of learned about it, and they're very aware of the rape culture and the problems with it, and they're actually some of the most adamantly against the rape culture people that I've seen, which is great, and they're and like some people say that this like sort of like they don't want to talk about it, and so it makes you uncomfortable, and so you say this blurs the lines of what's appropriate in sex. But I think that's actually, especially after living with these people, I think that's actually completely wrong. I think you actually get more comfortable talking about what you like and what you don't like, and where your boundaries are, especially if you are engaging these activities. So again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, under consenting circumstances. But if it's driven to a violation, then it's a problem. And the same thing with violence on TV and sports violence and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And getting back to a little bit to the movies thing, it's we also talked about this too in a podcast episode. Is that like look at the talking about movies and stuff. Like look at the Rocky movies. Like the fights that would some of the fights would go on, like the second fight with Apollo Creed, or like that fight he had against Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. That fight would have been stopped.
Right.
That would have been stopped.
Right.
Because especially during Rocky IV, because Rocky IV, that was in the mid '80s, and it was it was a little while after the whole Ray Boom Boom Mancini Dooku Kim fight, where the Korean fighter he died after going at it for 15 rounds and brain damaged and stuff. But the second round, the Rocky versus Ivan Drago fight, that fight would have been stopped.
Right.
It would have been stopped. So fights can't necessarily. Some fights do kind of mirror real life, and stuff, but it's more of a heightened reality, and
right.
You could say the same like in martial arts movies too, like in real life, in a real fight, of course in the UFC there's rules and stuff like that, but like the death touch and the finger poking and the biting and like breaking fingers and stuff like that. You can't do that in the octagon.
Right.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's like I said about when you were talking about the big guy taking on the little guy and stuff like that. You just described almost every martial arts movie known to man that was ever made. Especially the Bruce Lee films. When Bruce Lee fought Chuck Norris in Return of the Dragon. Chuck Norris did outweigh Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee, whooped his ass.
Right.
And also, but in real life, they do say it's and I've heard this in martial arts, it's about fighting spirit too. I mean, it's about, guys fighting someone who's much bigger than them. I can tell, and I can speak from experience because I have an older brother. Hey Wayne, what's up? He's really gonna smile when he sees this, because and he was short. I'm really taller than him. I used to make fun of him, call him Gary Coleman and Spud Webb and Muggsy Bogues and stuff. And but whenever we would play fight or whatever, and we got into a real fight or whatever, he whooped my ass. One time he actually got me in a press, a la the Ultimate Warrior, and threw me over the couch.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he's whooped my ass.
Fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I actually do believe in that. I believe in the strength of spirit and and things like that, and using your opponent's extra size and weight against them. Like I do believe in that. It wasn't to say that I think the smaller person is necessarily at an advantage. In fact, they could be at a disadvantage. I think they could be at an advantage if they knew what to do. But
well, yeah, that's what they teach you that's the whole principle of judo. When you go to learn judo,
right.
Somebody tries to use their weight and strength against you, and you use it against them, and you put them on their ass.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's why Ronda Rousey is a badass bitch.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Aikido, similar actually. Use their motion. They get themselves off their center, and you use the fact that they're off their center and they're motion forward. You go into your center, and bring them further off balance, and they fall.
Look at old videos of Steven Seagal in the 70s before he became that big famous movie star. He's in the dojos and throwing guys around. Seagal. I know a lot of you movie people go, "Oh, Steven Seagal," but let me tell you something. Steven Seagal back then, and still to this day, because I'm a huge fan of his, he was a bad motherfucker.
Right.
Still a bad motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and it is interesting how movies mirror this stuff, and now with 50 Shades of Grey, movies are mirroring the sexual stuff as well, And the interesting thing, going back to what you said with what was his name, Dr.
Drew.
Dr. Drew, right? So the interesting thing with Dr. Drew's thing that if it was real, he'd be in jail and blah blah.
Well, he said that about Christian Grey.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But so I mean the thing with that is that you might not like it, you might be uncomfortable with it, but the fact that he has this contract and whatever with her, that's showing that it is consensual and whatever. And again, this is a movie. I'm sure it doesn't happen that way, but yeah, I think that that's sort of just showing your own uncomfortability if you think that he would be prosecuted for a sexual crime. I don't think he does anything to actually violate that line that we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, that's sort of Dr. Drew. I mean, Dr. Drew. Well, anybody who knows Dr. Drew has been watching him for years. I mean, he's not one of those doctors that is for the man. Even though he runs a rehab clinic and he has, he does educate people on drugs, but he's like, listen, I don't want to tell people what to do. I'm not for the man. I am not for the man.
Right.
But but on this sort of thing, it's one of those things with Dr. Drew. It's just like, buddy, don't knock it till you tried it. and I love Dr. Drew.
Right.
I love Dr. Drew. And we're gonna end it right here. Mm-hmm. So if you go like us and comment and subscribe to the channel.
Exactly. Yes.
Watch old episodes and watch some new ones. Mm-hmm. And just keep watching it. We're promoting. We're promoting. We're hanging up signs, and of course, I'm not going to give out my number on over the net, but I do have my number on the posters and signs and stuff that I'll be hanging up soon. So give me a call and watch it.
Okay. Yep. And with that,
from Beantown to your town, this is the Beantown Beatdown. I'm Matthew Barris.
Gabe Shamus.
Vios con Dios.